India has 42 jungle reserves. Among the more popular, has 25 to 40 tigers crawling its almost 800 square kilometers. One of my friend just returned from a trip the previous weekend, having seen 2 tigers. That creature the king of the jungle, nature's masterpiece, and so on, but they are the lonesome animals, and I have heard many more chronicles about futile attempts to spot one.
The Royal Melbourne University exhibition is much more than a collection of images of bridges. It asks enduring and relevant questions about the purpose of these structures and highlights their central role in defining the cities which they grace. As you make your way through the gallery, you're confronted with unexpected and surprising juxtapositions. Hope you enjoy your stay.
When the idea of fly-on-the-wall documentary was originally suggested to the school's head teacher, he was justifiably concerned that it wouldn't present a balanced picture of life in his school and could lead to unfair criticisms of his staff. Exposing teachers and students to such scrutiny was a risk, yet the finished program vindicates his decision to go ahead.
Few people under the age of 40 are going to be able to think of a time before cell phone creation. Nor would they be aware of the impact on the language skills of young people that many individuals expected text language will have. Interestingly, linguists nowadays claim that it is proof of a strong understanding of grammar and sentence structure to express oneself clearly in texts.
Bullfighting is a familiar game in many parts of the world. If you want to know more while you climb into bed, suppressing a yawn. Maybe a little reading or television to highlight the information. The twist, however, is that this sport doesn't acknowledge to people currently living outside the modern Western world, or even to inhabitants of Western Americans 200 years ago.
The university will invite all former students to introduce this year's open day. The university will invite all former students to introduce this year's open day.
The last lecture of psychology is rearranged on the next weekend. The last lecture of psychology is rearranged on the next weekend.
Rice is the best staple food and is consumed the most in Asia. Rice is the best staple food and is consumed the most in Asia.
The people living in the western suburbs may experience power cuts. The people living in the western suburbs may experience power cuts.
The graduation ceremony was officially postponed due to the request made by students. The graduation ceremony was officially postponed due to the request made by students.
What visa are you currently on? Because you need a work visa. What visa are you currently on? Because you need a work visa.
The global migration patterns are mostly affected by human activities. The global migration patterns are mostly affected by human activities.
Modern technological advancements are beneficial for humans as well as the nature. Modern technological advancements are beneficial for humans as well as the nature.
This bar chart represents the money spent on 3 fast food items by various income groups in the UK during year 1990. The high income groups spent most on hamburger and relatively low on pizza and fish and chips. The average income groups also spent the most on hamburger, followed by fish and chips, and then pizza. The low income group spent least on pizza, as well as hamburger, while relatively high on fish and chips. In conclusion, hamburger was the most and pizza was the least favorite fast food for the UK residents.
This flowchart represents the manufacturing process of instant noodles. The process begins with procurement of raw materials by mixing them and kneading to form a dough. The dough is rolled and flattened as well as slit into narrow strips. The noodles then steamed at high temperature and cut into short portions. The noodles then put into molds and dehydrated by oil frying. Then they are cooled and attached with seasoning packs. The final packs are put into cartons and delivered to a warehouse using a lorry.
This line graph represents the metabolic status of sugars and fats in the blood sample, on hourly basis following a meal. There was an instant spike in the blood sugars immediately after the meal during the first hour, but no fats detected. During the second hour the sugar level dropped to its half and fat levels increased. During the third and fourth hour, fat levels peaked while sugar levels dropped to its low. After 5 hours both fats and sugars bottomed out. In conclusion, this shows how a meal affects the sugar and fat levels in our bloodstream.
When you meet the interviewers, remember that first impressions are crucial. Research has linked the kind of handshake you give to the type of character you are. I'm not entirely convinced by this, but the same research also links eye contact to personality, and this, along with a smile, is what most interviewers will notice straight away and will help to create a favourable impact before you even sit down. When you do sit down, sit to the back of the chair and try not to slouch. Your body language speaks volumes and shows you are confident. So relax your shoulders, hold your head high and don't fidget. And keep your hands as still as possible, using moderate gestures to show emotion and interest rather than waving your arms around. Another thing I'd urge you to do is to listen carefully. Don't interrupt, and be prepared to give some thought to how you answer questions. Unless specifically asked to, avoid long-winded answers. I've had to stop people rambling on for 2 minutes or even longer, when actually 50 seconds at most is usually enough. The same applies to asking questions. Keep them short and to the point.
The lecture was about presenting yourself at a job interview. The speaker said, "First impression is important," and then he talked about the importance of appropriate handshakes, eye contact, and a smile. He further asked to sit comfortably on the chair, relax shoulders, and to keep the head high to show confidence. He also suggested to place the hands still, rather than waving them around. The speaker concluded by suggesting to keep the answers short and to the point.
I'm going to talk about the disturbing recent decline in the population of bees. Having said that, bees being threatened with extinction is not a new phenomenon. As long ago as 1965, in the UK and other parts of Europe, scientists were well aware of the problem, but it had to get much worse, I think around 1998, before the rest of the world began to get alarmed. From around 2004, the decline has spread further afield to places like North America and Asia. And in 2010, we were hearing reports of Chinese farmers having to pollinate fruit trees by hand. Bees are in big trouble. Which means we are too, because, as you know, bees pollinate many important plants we need for food, including most fruit and vegetables. These crops also provide us with a crucial source of vitamins, so a lack of bees is inevitably going to have a knock-on effect on the availability and quality of food everywhere.
The lecture was about the recent decline in the population of bees. The speaker said the decline is not a new issue, as in 1965 the scientists were aware of this in the UK and Europe. However, now it's a worldwide issue since the year 1998. From 2010, Chinese farmers started pollinating plants by hand. The speaker concluded by saying that we are in trouble along with the bees because they are very crucial in pollination of fruits and vegetables that we consume.
What is the name of the ceremony when students actually get their degrees?
How many days it takes for the Earth to complete one rotation around the Sun?
Which month comes after June and before August?
What travels the fastest, air, water, or light?
Which doctor or specialist would you visit to test your eyesight?
Ophthalmologist.